Sunday paper, Mayo Clinic. Understanding inflammation of the brain. It's a big ad they put in there. Health highlights from the Mayo Clinic. Until recently, it was often confused with other forms of encephalopathy with similar symptoms that can be caused by infection or head injury. New testing indicates it has a different cause. The body's own immune system is attacking the brain. This is something that, as the PANDAS and PANS community, we've been shouting from the mountaintops for decades. Unfortunately, the Mayo Clinic does not treat anyone that doesn't meet the criteria of the blood panel that they apply. They repeatedly ignore these suffering kids. We were down there ourselves in 2017 for 3 days worth of testing, and in the end they recommended that we send Parker to a group speech therapy class or a group anxiety clinic. This is a child with no prior medical history and sudden onset of every psychiatric symptom you can imagine, and at the time he was being tested and evaluated, could not speak. He lost the ability to speak and would not speak for several more months. But they had no recommendation and no treatment offering because it didn't fit within their little box. Because his suffering wasn't worth more than their reputation. Well, when did the kids get addressed? When do they get addressed by the Mayo Clinic? When do they count? When do they matter? When does their suffering matter more than the Mayo's reputation or liability? When are they willing to practice medicine instead of repeating medicine? Because it seems like they're only willing to repeat, not practice. I know it's fuzzy and there are variables involved. It's messy in the PANS and PANDAS world. Post-infectious autoimmune encephalitis, whatever you want to call it. I know it's fuzzy. You can't look it up on a blood panel and assure it every single time. There are other niche doctors throughout the United States and the world that treat these kids, and they do so with tremendous courage, and I applaud them. But they're not enough to take care of the community that needs to be served. And the community that needs to be served deserves to have the kind of attention and quality evaluation and care and aggressive, thoughtful treatment that a place like the Mayo Clinic can provide. I watched a heartwarming video on PBS about all the advances that the Mayo Clinic championed back in its heyday, when it began. It was willing to try things. It was willing to put doctors together and make them collaborate and work together for a patient's best outcome. Even if it wasn't 100% proven, they would reach for a patient's best outcome. And they're stating about how much they understand about autoimmune encephalitis, but they aren't willing to reach for these kids. When is their day going to come? When? Because the parents that are suffering with these suffering children are not calling the Mayo Clinic because they know they'll get rejected. They're calling people like me. And I hear from fathers and mothers across the nation who are deeply suffering with deeply ill children. And I say, you know what? Getting good treatment is kind of a hat trick. It's the biggest Western medicine tragedy that I know of. There may be greater out there, I just don't know about it. And I know there are diseases that are more disturbing. And they exact a terrible toll on their victims. And they're not being addressed by Western medicine. But I would contend that comparatively they are very rare. And comparatively this is painfully common. And that this group of children deserve to be addressed. So somewhere out there is somebody who can make that difference. They can contact the American Academy of Pediatrics. They can get in touch with neurology at the Mayo Clinic or some other similar facility that will open their doors and say to our community, we will consult with you, we will fairly evaluate you, we will not turn you away, we will give you your best, we will reach for your best possible outcome. We will act bravely. And I hope this video gets shared with that person.